Hey everybody, so look, whether you're on snow or dirt or gravel or sand or water or mud, power sports is all about tackling all that different terrain, getting out into the wilderness, seeing beautiful parts of this earth, and of course it's about the adrenaline rush. But there are so many different ways to get off-road. Which one is the most fun? Well, in this video, I want you to come along for a ride with me on my snowmobile while I try to convince you why snowmobiling is the most fun power sport out there. So first of all, guys, let me take you on a quick tour of my Yamaha Venture right here. So this is a Yamaha Venture 600. It is a 600 triple, and it's a 1999. Now, I've actually had this thing for 3 seasons now. This is my 3rd winter with it. And you know what? It just turned over 4,000 kilometers. So for a sled that is 20 years old, it's still super low mileage, which is why I bought it. Now, all the hardcore guys are gonna laugh at me, they're gonna call me fat, I'm fine with it. You see this, it's a 2-up, but when you don't have someone behind you, the seat pulls forward. I absolutely love that. It's so nice to have a backrest, so if you don't wanna ride aggressively, you can just sort of lean back and chill out. And I used to have an MXZ Skidoo 800, so much more of a little crotch rocket, and you know what, this kind of big couch almost suits me better. Plus I got kids now, so I need a 2-up. Now, it's been really reliable for me, and I actually just had my first issue with it, but it seems to be a sensor, something to do with the TORS system, which is essentially a safety system. So I've been struggling with that a little bit, but it's not the end of the world. It just kind of bogs in the low end. You got to sort of trick it into getting up to speed. But besides that, it's been entirely reliable, no real issues. And for all the eagle-eyed viewers out there, yes, my ski here is quite bent. You can see it should look like that, but it looks pretty vertical on the front. That was a sad mishap with a big old tree stump last year, right at the end of the season. And you can see there where I took a sledgehammer to my trailing arm to straighten her out a little bit. You know what, I wanted to get the trailing arm and ski replaced before this winter, ran out of time, and luckily it actually hasn't been really all that bad to ride. But that is one of the nice things about owning sort of an old beater, is that when crap like this happens, you're not too worried about it. It's a 600, so it's a pretty quick sled, and because this is TFL Off-Road, I feel obligated, and we have a frozen lake, so check out this top speed run. Let's see what this old 99 will do. So there it is, about 120, maybe 122 kilometers an hour. You know what, for an old girl, she does a good job. Okay, so first of all, I think you have to bring up regionality, of course. I mean, I live in a place where we get a winter like this and some pretty serious snow, so snowmobiling is an option every year. And I'll just add on real quick, one of the reasons I always tell people I love living here in Southern Ontario is we get 4 distinct seasons. We get, you know, a real spring, a hot summer, a nice fall, and a cold winter. So, you know, power sports wise, I get the chance to do it all. And this lake you're looking at right now is the exact same lake that I reviewed my Sea-Doo on, you know, about 6 months ago. So for those of you living down south, I'm sorry, I know snowmobiling's not easy for you, but please come up here and take a ride. You will not regret it. So next you got to talk about the actual surface, and that is the snow. And that is honestly one of the big reasons why snowmobiling is so fun, because the snow is ever changing and there's so many different kinds of snow. So right now we have about 3 to 4 inches maybe of like nice soft powder right on top, and then a nice hard base of snow underneath that. And that actually works great because you get lots of traction out of this snow, but with that bit of powder on top you can still kind of break loose and you can get a little bit of that float going on. And that floating feeling is actually one of my favorite things about sledding, especially when you're in deep powder. If you can find, feet worth of just straight deep powder, when you're on your snowmobile, it just absolutely feels like you're just floating through it. There's nothing else I've experienced in power sports that can compare to, coming off of a ridge into like 10 feet of powder and just having this cushion. It just feels incredible. And that's kind of the funny thing, especially with something like a side-by-side, it's all about suspension travel. And of course, more suspension travel on a sled is good as well, but you don't necessarily need that much because the surface you're on actually does a lot of that absorption for you, whereas when you just got hard packed ground, you need the suspension to do all of the work. And then there's the riding experience. So let me actually take this moment to say one thing. A lot of you are gonna get mad. I don't do two wheels. I don't do dirt bikes, not because I don't like them, I just have never done it. I've never really been on a dirt bike, so that's one thing I can't comment on. So kind of take everything in that context. But of all the power sports that I do, which is basically every other one, this has to be the most involved riding experience. When you're on a sled and you're out there in the snow, sometimes the handlebars are basically useless in deep powder. You want to go left, you turn, the sled does nothing. You have to get up there, get your body weight, pull it over. You can see in some of these clips when I'm out here on the lake, when I want to make a really tight turn, my butt comes all the way off the seat and you really throw your weight over, and that just means you're going to stick that right or left side to the ground and allow the sled to turn. Now, because of that, it also makes snowmobiling, I think, one of the harder power sports to master, because in a side-by-side, even on an ATV, the machine is doing a lot of the work for you and you really have, really solid traction to the ground. Or even on something like a PWC, if I want to make a tight turn, I can always do it because I have that jet power. On a sled, there's so much more involved. Like I said, it's all about body weight, but then it can also be, breaking the track loose a little bit with a blip of the throttle, trying to rotate the machine. And then when you get into the really deep powder, this thing, you can almost get it right up on its side and then back up on the other side, all just by throwing your body weight around. So, I think that snowmobiling is one of the hardest things to really master, but when you start getting these techniques down, it's also one of the most fulfilling because, again, you're so involved in the ride. Everything this sled does, I really have to make it do it. The other thing I love about sledding is just the seating position. You get this real nice low seating position. You're straddling the machine, which, really gives you the range of motion that you want to be able to move around. And then one thing I like about modern sleds, which this 99 definitely isn't, is a lot of modern sleds have a rider forward sort of seating position. So your knees are almost right beneath you. You're leaning up like this, and that allows you to stand up and sit down very easily. And again, standing up is really important if you suddenly need to throw your weight around. So on the adrenaline side of things, yeah, the snowmobile delivers. This thing is fast, I got tons of power. It's a very engaging ride, very fulfilling when you nail some of these maneuvers. But there's another reason why I really like snowmobiling, and it's this right here. It's this beautiful place that we live in. Now, I know a lot of you probably hate winter and hate the cold, and that is another thing that comes along with snowmobiling is gear. If you don't have the right gear, there's no point getting into this sport because you're just gonna freeze, you're gonna be miserable, no fun. So you have to invest in the proper gear, which yes, there is an added cost to sledding over, ATVing, where if it's a hot summer day, all you really need is a helmet, and even then, I know some of you guys don't even do that. So there's definitely some costs, you need the right gear, but once you get proper gear and you're fully suited up, wintertime is no big deal. And you know what? I really think that winter is the most beautiful season. It is just amazing to see these places that you are familiar with in an entirely different way. So watch this clip. This is the Hydroline. You guys know and love the Hydroline? Well, this is what it's like in the winter. There's maybe 4 or 5 feet of powder back there right now. This was a beautiful, soft ride. And like I said, it's just something really amazing to me about being able to be on the same piece of trail, but it feels different, it looks different. And then there's a whole other aspect which draws me in, and it's just the fact that being out in the middle of wilderness in the freezing cold winter, it's about minus 10 Celsius right now, so it's not crazy cold, but it's cold. You shouldn't be there. You almost feel like you're beating the elements, because I'm out in the middle of nowhere. If I was just left here without gear and a sled, I would die for sure. And maybe I'm crazy, but to me there's something really fulfilling about that too. It feels like I'm beating the environment. It feels like the world and Mother Nature is throwing its harshest conditions at us, and we just take advantage of them. So yeah, just doing snowmobiling in the winter time, you have to love the winter, and I certainly do, but that adds this whole new aspect to it. Plus you get to see some really beautiful things. Like this year on our lake here, there's a crack in the ice that goes all the way across the lake. It's one of the biggest pressure cracks I've ever seen. And just take a look at some of these beautiful blue ice ridges that popped up. It's stuff like this that just makes snowmobiling so cool. You get to just discover so much beautiful wilderness that you wouldn't have otherwise. And sure, that entire argument could be made for, being out in the forest in the summertime, but again, to me, there's just something really special about the winter. There's something about the fact that I know I'm not supposed to be there, but I am, that just makes it, really fun and really special. So let me flip it real quick. What are the downsides? Well, first of all, getting stuck on a snowmobile probably sucks more than anything else, because sometimes you get in these situations where when you get stuck, you're usually in a lot of snow. So I've had it where, you're almost chest deep in the snow. The track is totally dug in, so the sled ends up basically just sitting on the running boards and the track's underneath just spinning away. So what you need to do is lift the back end and be able to kind of throw it over into the new snow, or you got to dig snow out from underneath. And I've had it where, you go to lift the sled, and rather than the sled lifting, you just go down into the powder. And anyone who's walked in any deep snow before, that's hard on its own. So I honestly think that getting a sled stuck is maybe one of the worst things. Getting stuck in super deep mud is kind of gnarly as well, but getting a snowmobile stuck in a big powdery drift is going to be a workout for you to get it out, no doubt about that. And getting sleds stuck, depending on the sled, of course, you can get mountain sleds with massive tracks and big power and big paddles. Those won't get stuck. My old girl here, she'll get stuck pretty easily. I'd say, even easier than an ATV or a side-by-side, because it'll get stuck in what I would consider to be normal conditions. An ATV is only going to get stuck if I really, run it into a swamp or something. So something like this is probably more prone to getting stuck than some of those other power sports. So the other downside to owning a sled is just the time window you can use it. And this is sort of, a pro and a con. So first of all, it's bad because you spend all this money on a machine, which realistically, where we live here, you can only use for maybe 4 months of the year. If you're lucky, you're gonna get 4 months. Now, I don't live here, I live down in the city, so it's even harder for me to find time to come up on a weekend where I know there's gonna be snow, it's gonna be cold enough. So, I'm lucky to get 5, 6, 7 weekends in every winter, which is really not a lot considering how much I've spent on gear and the sled and gas and everything. But on the pro side, that also makes sledding a little bit more special because you have this really short window. ATVs and side-by-sides are a smarter purchase from the point of view that, yeah, you can use that machine year-round. When the snow gets really deep, sure, you're gonna get stuck. So, realistically, you can use those machines 10, maybe 9 months of the year, but you're gonna get a lot more use and a lot more of your money's worth out of one of those machines than you are a snowmobile. That doesn't matter to me. I didn't buy this thing to be practical or smart. I bought it for the experience. The experience of being out here and snowmobiling is just so incredible. I love it so much that it's entirely worth it, to me anyways. So guys, for me, the pros totally outweigh the cons. It's all about the riding experience here, and it's about seeing the beauty of where we live in the winter time. And there's just something really special about that. And that's why snowmobiling is the best power sport. Nothing else compares to it. This is so different. I mean, I guess you could say that a PWC is really different than a dirt bike or an ATV or a side-by-side because the water is a whole different experience as well. But the water is sort of, the same anywhere. I can be on a lake here, I can be on a lake in Florida or Minnesota or wherever, and it's all gonna be a bit the same. The cool thing about the snow is from day to day, week to week, you can have different kinds of snow. Hard pack snow, soft snow, sticky snow, powdery snow, and you can find it in different regions. And then one of the other cool things, you get a lot of snow drifts here on these open lakes. So if I ride across the lake right now, it's like going across the waves. So you know, there's just something so cool about this surface and how ever changing it is that just makes the experience of snowmobiling so good. So for all those reasons and a bunch more, that's why snowmobiling is the best power sport. I know a lot of you aren't going to agree with me, and that's fine. We all get to love our own thing. So why don't you let me know what power sport is your favorite? Oh, and as an added bonus, I'm also a snowboarder, so I just like winter sports, and snowboarding and snowmobiling, well, they go hand in hand. Check this out. I love doing this once the lake freezes. Alright guys, well, that's it for this video. Go down in the comments, let me know what you think about snowmobiling and what your favorite power sport is. And as always, stay tuned to TFL Off-Road for more news, views, and real world reviews. Beautiful frozen lake, I got lots more riding to do, let's go.